Welcome back! So today is day 3 of the reading rush and I really need to finish Life of Pi. That's my priority today because if I have one book down, then I can start on the fantasy book and also continue reading the short story collection and maybe even start Beowulf, but I really need to finish a book today. So that is my goal. I hope that you are all keeping up with the challenges and that you're not giving up because you all can do it.
So today I went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, particularly for this exhibition on Yoshitoshi, who was a 19th century Japanese woodblock printer. And unfortunately, I didn't bring any footage of the museum. Not really inside the museum because I don't think I'm allowed to film inside the museum, but not even outside of the museum. I have nothing to show for it. So instead, I wanted to show you this book that I have on Hiroshiga. I think I've shown it a little bit before in one of my older videos, but Hiroshiga was a contemporary of Yoshitoshi. I mean, he was a woodblock printer, and I just absolutely love his art. Now, Yoshitoshi's art is famous for being more violent, but actually that's only a small percentage of the collection, is what I learned when I was at the art museum. But this is Hiroshiga, and I'll just show you this one. So this one is called Evening Cherry at Nakamocho in the Yoshiwara. And I'll just show you this because Yoshitoshi's prints are similar in themes. There are a lot of people who are depicted, geishas. Let's see. Look at this print. This is so nice. So this is, again, Hiroshiga. This is called A Temple on a High Rock. And if you can look carefully, let's see if I can get it. Can you see the lines in the wood block? It's one of my favorite parts of these prints. And also just perspective. The way that these artists are able to show perspective, it feels like this mountain is poking through the painting. It's just so incredible. So yeah, I just wanted to show you these prints because Japanese woodblock prints aren't necessarily on exhibit in every museum. I'm from Cleveland, and the Cleveland Museum of Art is one of the best art museums in the United States, but they don't have any woodblock prints. So it was really cool to go to an exhibit today on these woodblock prints, and it was cool to be introduced to a printer I wasn't familiar with before. So I will link the Philadelphia Museum of Art's website below so that you can, look at it, and I think they have some samples of the art there. Then the next thing I wanted to show you was The Burgermeister's Daughter by Stephen Osment, which will most likely be the topic of my next medieval Renaissance video that I do, because this is really juicy, and I just love these histories that tell a really good story from the archival material. And I don't know, so one of the more interesting books that I have in my collection is Pascal's works, including Pascal's mathematical works. So here is one, Traité de l'équilibre des liqueurs et de la pesanteur de la masse de l'air. So treatise on the equilibrium of liquids and on the weight or the heaviness of the mass of the air. And it has drawings. So here's a drawing. And it says, let me move my other books away. And this edition just has the Pensée, of course, his religious material, and his mathematical and scientific material, which I think is really cool. And it would be really neat to read one of the scientific ones. I don't know if I'd understand any of it though, but it would be really cool. And now this is early modern period because Pascal lived in the 17th century, but I think that would be really neat to do. Let's see what else we have. Ooh, look at this. He has Expérience touchant le vide, which deals with the vacuum, because Pascal was one of the first philosophers to insist that a vacuum was possible. So that is incredible. Also, can we all appreciate how pre and early modern titles were like the entire book? Look how long this title is. Actually, I could probably read this story to fulfill the read a book with 5 or more words in the title, because I think this has more than 5 words in the title. What do you think? It's crazy. And yeah, it's just cool to see all of these works, and I thought maybe we could do something like that, some just lesser known work by Pascal, or maybe his mathematical ones, but will I be able to follow it? I don't know. I might want to try that. So, yeah, I'm thinking in the next couple weeks to do the Burgermeister's Daughter first, and then do something from Pascal's writings, something lesser known. Or we can do my favorite Pensée. We could do that too. So, anyway, those are things that are coming up. And yeah.
Okay, so I just finished Life of Pi by Jan Martel. This was very interesting. It definitely was the most interesting at the very end. I don't want to spoil anything, but suffice it to say that as I was reading, I thought, what the hell am I reading? What am I reading? And I was very tempted to Google the book. And then I thought, no, I'm going to stick with it. And as I stuck with it, it became more apparent to me what Martel is doing. I think that this is a very interesting book. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think that this work is completely original, which is fine. What Martel does in this work has been done before a few times. There are a few books that come to mind. I thought that the realism was shocking. For some reason, I thought that Life of Pi was kind of this really sweet and pleasant story. And maybe it's because of the film. I haven't seen the film. I will be seeing the film because I'm reading this book to fulfill the challenge where I read a book and watch its film adaptation. So maybe the film is less gruesome, but I did not expect this book to be as violent and as visceral and as real as it was. But now that I've finished it, it makes complete sense. There were parts that could have been left out, or maybe, it could have been more concise in the middle, particularly. It isn't my favorite travel narrative. I understand why this book is so controversial. I will just say that as a literature student, I appreciated what the author did. I understand why it won a literary award. And I definitely would recommend it to people who are interested in storytelling. So yeah, I finished Life of Pi, and now I'm going to read a couple more stories from Interpreter of Maladies before I call it a night, because I really want to make sure that I catch up, because I feel like I'm a little bit behind. Well, I just finished reading the following 2 stories in Interpreter of Maladies, and I must say, I haven't read such an enjoyable short story collection in a long time. The last time was probably a Roald Dahl short story collection. I generally have a bad experience with short story collections because I just don't get the point of the stories, or I find the characters to not be very interesting, but the stories here just keep getting better and better. So the first story that I read was the title story, Interpreter of Maladies, which is about a couple who has 2 children. The couple are Indian Americans, but they were born in the United States. They are visiting family in India, and they have this tour guide who is driving them to the Sun Temple. And along the way, they ask him what he does, and they learn that he interprets, because he knows English, he translates the Gujarati patients at a hospital. He translates for them so that they can get the treatment they need. And that's where the story begins, and it's just so nice to see the Indian experience being explored from so many different perspectives in this story. The couple who are American, they were raised in the United States, and how, they are Indian ethnically, but at the same time, they don't behave in ways that are familiar to the tour guide. And the tour guide, who is seen as this foreigner by the couple, and everyone's taking pictures of the monkeys that are on the side of the road. It is a foreign country for the family that is visiting, despite the shared ethnic background. And I really, really like that. But the story kept me interested up until the very end, and I thought that the ending was very satisfying. Then the story after that was about an elderly woman who lives at the steps of this poor apartment building, but she's even poorer than they are. It appears that she's a refugee from a part of Calcutta that, I guess, separated during the partition. And yet, she tells stories about her past, about how wealthy she used to be, how she had all of these privileges. She's very helpful. She kind of acts as a security guard for the apartment building. So she tells these stories, and people really entertain her stories. But one day, one of the women who lives in the apartment building, who's having difficulties with her husband, realizes that this elderly woman, who has done so much for the apartment complex, the bedding that she has, because she sleeps outside, is really bad, and she talks about having this rash that won't go away, and so she promises that she will get this woman a new bedding, a new sheets, a pillow, etc. And that's where the story begins, and I really liked how social class was dealt with in the story, and also wealth and questions of privilege. I thought that this was much more sophisticated in terms of exploring social class than the other stories that I've read in this collection. They're not intellectuals, they're not upper class Indians or Indian Americans, they are people of lower classes, and I thought that this was a really great story. So yes, this has been a wonderful third day of Reading Rush, and I hope that it has also been a great day for you. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.